Practice like you've never won, perform like you've never lost. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Athlete Podcast sponsored by Sports for Champions. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Team GB professional gymnast Oakley Banks. How are you today?
Yeah, good, thank you. All good.
Yeah, good to have you here. We start these podcasts every single time right at the very beginning. How did you first get into gymnastics?
So I got into gymnastics through my family. My granddad used to be part of the army sort of thing. He used to do trampolining and helped out in the army with stuff like skiing and things like that. So we were quite a sporty family. Just used to go to his house sort of thing and just enjoy like him throwing me about because he knew how to support and things. And then from there it was we should probably get into gymnastics now sort of thing. And then from there just carried on through the years.
Were you jumping over the dining room table onto the sofa, that kind of thing?
Yeah, like we put a chair in the middle of our living room and we used to run from the garden and try and vault over it onto the other sofa and things like that. So
yeah, a natural talent from it early.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about your first time going to clubs and that experience?
Yeah, so I was quite old when I started gymnastics for someone who's been good. So I started when I was 6 and I just remember going to a club, like being really nervous, really but excited. And from there I just tried to do as much as I could, listen, learn, and then from there it just picked up.
So you bounced around a few clubs, I think, at first. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I started at GYMNAST Gymnastics Club in Kent, and then I stayed there for about a year and a half, and then from there I moved to the MIPA Gymnastics Club, where I only stayed there for about 9 months because I got offered a place at Pegasus Gymnastics Club, which is where I'm at now, and from there is where everything started to lighten up and go in the right direction.
Yeah, taking off. Can you tell me a bit about the disciplines now? There's obviously a wide variety of disciplines in gymnastics, but I know that you do artistic. Can you tell us about how you kind of settled on that and whether there was any period where you weren't sure?
Yeah, so obviously I do men's artistic gymnastics. There's 6 apparatus and yeah, it's pretty difficult. There's been times where it's been like, do I want to do this anymore, or is there like a time where I'm like, oh, like, is it worth it sort of thing? But every time I've always gone back to the same thing of I'm here for a reason, I'm doing it for a reason. So yeah, just it's difficult. I've come along a lot of challenges, a lot of overcomes and setbacks, but overall really it's just been a fun and enjoyable experience over the years.
So it was always artistic gymnastics for you?
Yeah, I've never wanted to do anything else like trampolining or tumbling. I've always wanted to be like that person that can swing on the rings and swing around the high bar and things like that. So yeah, I don't think it was ever a choice for me to change discipline.
I think most people who do gymnastics, they only have one thing to focus on. Obviously you've got 6. How do you split your training time around that, especially when you're so young, learning all of the different disciplines, and do you have a favourite?
For me, I think it's when I was younger, like coaches and things helped me split my times up, make sure I wasn't spending too long on one piece and another piece doing little, so then everything worked out to be quite similar. So it'd be like 5 hours of training and like half an hour on a piece or 20 minutes on a piece, depending on how long we spent on warm-ups and conditioning and things like that people don't really realise that we do. So but yeah, there's not really a set amount of time you should spend on a piece. It's just if you're spending time to do a new skill or things like that, it can be infinite. But yeah.
Do you have a favourite?
I do, but it changes a lot. For me, it's like if I do a new skill on a piece, that'll be my favourite for a month. But then if I do another new skill on a different piece, it'll change up. It's all different depending on the day, really.
I suppose that would keep it a bit more fresh and exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me it's as much as I can learn and I can overcome things in the sport on different pieces, being able to change the piece makes it a lot more easier to focus, because it's not just you're focusing on one singular thing. Like if you're having a bad day on one piece, we can always move to the next one sort of thing and work it out that way.
Makes sense. So I think you were 11 when you were first picked up by Team GB. Must have been a proud moment for the family.
Yeah, like when we first so you do a competition when you're younger, and that decides whether or not they put you onto the British gymnastics like national team. And yeah, I just remember my parents telling me that like I'm part of the team. I just remember it's like such a good feeling in your mind and your body just to know that you've actually been recognised for something that you're doing and you're enjoying. But yeah, it's always been picked up from there that I'm not too bad at the sport and I can try and go somewhere with it.
Can you tell us about the first time you competed nationally?
Yeah, so I was 14 in 2018 and I went to a place in Germany called Cottbus. It was a junior competition, and I went with one of the other fellow sports champions, sports people, Danny Crouch. Me and him went both together. We both medalled. I won, he came second, but honestly every time it changes around between me and him. Like no matter what, it's always either he wins, I win, or someone else wins. It's always a difficult thing, but no, it was an experience. Really, it's a good experience. Traveling with only your fellow teammates and your coaches is so different from like traveling with your family and friends. But yeah, no, it's definitely a lot different to how I expected it to be.
How so?
I thought it was going to be a lot more stressful, but really it was just very relaxed and you felt like home all the time. But just you're doing your thing that you enjoy most, and that's how it worked out, really.
Yeah. And then being so young, competing nationally and internationally, how does that work in terms of school, and do you think that changed your sort of early teenage years?
Yeah, I really did change how I like grew up, my childhood, things like that. Like I had to miss out on a lot of things, so like parties, like even school friends just going out like on their like bikes and things that I wasn't able to because I just knew that I was training or I was doing something else. But school really took a heavy like beating when I was going through, because I was coming out of school to train and missing it to go up to like national training like once every month potentially. And yeah, I almost prioritized gymnastics over school, which is something that's unheard of, but I still did well in school. I still caught up with all my work, got good grades in school when I was there.
So did you put in the extra work outside of gymnastics to make sure that you weren't falling off?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was as soon as I got back like into school, I wouldn't go out to play football at lunchtime, things like that. I would just sit down in a classroom trying to like work on myself and trying to be able to get back to where I have missed almost.
Yeah, where you would have been.
Yeah, so that's how it worked out from there.
So you're competing nationally, internationally, winning medals, presumably. A lot of people are very excited for your future in the sport, and then COVID hits. Must have been quite tough to take at such a young age.
Yeah, I think for me, it almost was a blessing in disguise.
Right.
So I was struggling before just to, like, with things muddled up in my head, like mental blocks, as most sports people know, it's always a hard time and things. But lockdown just gave me that time to rest and ease and make sure that my body was fit again, making sure that, like, when I was growing, because obviously it was a time where I was growing a lot and things, it just made sure that I was mentally and physically in the right place, which then when I came out of lockdown, it was a chance to kind of reform my gymnastics and almost start again. But yeah, it was almost like a blessing in disguise.
So yeah, you took a big growth spurt during lockdown. Can you tell us about how that kind of affects your technique, and do you have to then do a bit of readjustment, a bit of gym work to try and make up for sort of these long bones that you've grown?
Yeah, so obviously before lockdown I was a lot smaller, I was a lot more like, I was just tiny, so things became really easy. Like I didn't have to potentially like bend my legs underneath like the parallel bars for things like swinging around it but then when I came back I would hit the floor. Like I was so tall for like how I used to be, so I almost had to relearn everything again, and it took longer than obviously I wanted it to be, but with the right coaches and the right mental people, it worked out right. And for me, it just made some things easier, some things harder, but it worked out to kind of even itself out over the years. But yeah, it's just I've kept growing, and it's it changes every day. Some days I feel heavier than others, and some days I feel taller than others, and things like that. But it all worked out to be okay.
I know you put in the hard work, kind of got back to your level, and then you were selected to go to the Youth Olympics in Slovakia. It's an amazing achievement. Can you tell us a bit about that experience?
Yeah, so that was my first major international competition for someone like Team GB, and it was a lot of new experiences. It was never like I'd travelled before, so like we were travelling with loads of different sports. We travelled as one delegation. We constantly were moving about, like we had our own buses, we had our own Team GB kit, we had our own like hotel and things like that, and it was just nice as a new beginning. It was almost felt like I was part of a massive competition, which I was at the time anyway. But yeah, it was just such a different learning curve, and watching other sports and seeing how they train compared to us and things, it's so completely different. And that's what kind of, it almost set me into like reality. So it made sure that I knew what I was doing was right for me, because I knew that other people training wasn't what I wanted to do. Like the training that I was doing when I was there and competing, and the amount of like attention that gymnastics got there was so big, it made me realise like I'm doing the best sport in the world.
Amazing. How did you get on?
Yeah, so we did 2 days of, 1 day of competition at the start, which was like the team final. So me and 2 other gymnasts went, and we got a silver medal in the team competition just by 0.1. So literally just a little tiny step from getting gold. But it was a really good comp. We all went clean. None of us had any falls. It was just a really easy and calm and relaxed competition. It wasn't any stress or anything at all.
That's really good. Do you think you deal well with pressure?
Yeah, I think I'm one of the people that you look at someone, they're like, right, they can do the job in the points. So like I got put up first on most pieces just to settle the nerves and things like that. I don't really get nervous at all, really.
Yeah, that'll stand you in good stead, although obviously maybe different on a real Olympics, as in like the adult Olympics.
Yeah, I think like if someone struggles with nerves and competition nerves, it's always going to be what happens, or like what's going to happen, because I don't know how they're going to take it. But if you just know it's the normal day, it's a normal day of routines, then you know you're going to be fine.
So I think not long after then you had your final youth competition. Would it have been the year after was your final before you transitioned into the seniors?
Yeah, so I did the Junior European Championships the same year as the European Youth Olympics, which was my last major junior championships. I had a couple like national competitions over the 2023 year. Yeah. But the 2022 year was the main year for me as a junior.
So you're kind of looking, you've taken a growth spurt, you've done really well at the European Youth Olympics, and presumably now is the time when your coaches start gearing you up for seniors. What's that change like?
Everyone says it's a lot to take in and things, but I think it's a smooth transition. If you're able to like transition really easily, and just, so junior you only do 8 skills in a routine, but senior you do 10. So it's just getting enough fitness and working around them things. Like next year it will go back down to 8 because of like new code changes and things like that, new rules and things. But for me it was a very easy transition. It didn't feel like it was too much. It wasn't a lot of pressure. Like there's not a lot really going on this year as me, because the Olympics is on and things like that, and I'm not looking to go to the Olympics this year. It'd be too early. So yeah, it was really easy. It was a really smooth transition. Just had to get fitness, had to work my way up to where I was now. So
and then you had a successful British champs this year.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we did 2 days of competition. The first day was the qualification for the finals, and apparatus finals the next day, and the all-round final, or like all-round, see who wins the medal. And I came 8th out of, I don't know how many there were, to be honest. And then I made 3 apparatus finals, which were floor, rings and vault. Then on the day after, I competed in them 3, and I came 4th on floor, just by 0.1, so a little step again. rings I came 6th out of the top 8 in the country, and then vault I came 5th. So for the first senior like British Championships, it was more than I could ever ask for, really.
What kind of is that a bit higher than you were expecting?
Yeah, I didn't really know what I was going to expect going into it, because I had not put myself against them people.
Yeah.
Like, I've always been a junior. I've never competed against the likes of someone like Courtney Tulloch and things like that. I've always just been competing against my age group, or almost maybe 1 year older and 1 year younger. I've never actually competed against people that are 5 or 6 years older than me. So I didn't really know what to expect, but where I was and how I competed, I was pretty proud of the performance that I did.
Yeah, I bet. That sounds amazing. And then in terms of now looking forward, presumably you got your eyes kind of loosely set on the Olympics at some point, but what does a typical day's training look like at the moment?
For me, depending on the day, but my main days are Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday, where I'll be doing routines and I'll be working towards competitions. So I'll take a Tuesday as an example. I'll warm up, I'll do like my rehab before, just to make sure I don't get any injuries and things. And then it'll go into routines on each piece. I'll go around every piece, I'll do all my skills, I'll show a couple of routines here and there, depending on the day. It could be 2, it could be 3. On some pieces it could be just 1. And then after I've finished that set of routines, I'll go back and I'll almost troubleshoot the routines. So whatever I was struggling with in the routine, I'll go back and I'll do maybe an extra 1 or 2 just to make sure. And then it'll go into straight away conditioning, where I'll just push the body as much as I can, because I know the next day after that will be slightly lighter. So I can push my body as much as I can. I can feel sore, and yeah, that'll take around 4 or 5 hours depending on how much I do and how quick I work. Some days it could be even 6.
Wow.
It just depends on how long it takes.
Yeah, makes sense. Wow. And then in terms of diet and nutrition, rest and recovery, is that something that you take quite seriously?
Yeah, absolutely. I think without the right nutrition and recovery, training is so much harder. So making sure I eat right, making sure I sleep enough, making sure that I get up in the right time and things like that is all something that factors in with being the best in your sport. So for me, trying to wake up at 8:30 every day is almost making it like easier for me to train, because I'm awake, I'm aware of what's going on, and eating before training and eating after training just makes everything 10 times easier when I'm resting and recovering and having enough energy for training.
Tell me a bit about funding. I know that's something that's a little bit controversial. It doesn't always meet the gaps that people need, and it can be quite difficult for athletes to kind of sort of mark their way through the career. Can you tell us a bit about that, and perhaps how organisations like Sports for Champions can help?
Yeah, so I'm one of the lucky people in my sport where, because of competition results and medaling at the Youth Olympics and the European Championships, I was able to get some small funding from lottery sport and things like that, but a lot of people don't. So someone like Sports for Champions, who is able to support and help as well, like with me being able to educate and inspire younger people, just getting extra like help and things like that is so big and so vital for gymnastics, as well as trying to gain a following from gymnastics as well. So going into schools, inspiring little children and kids to be able to do gymnastics is something that's really vital and crucial for the sport as well.
How do you see the current state of gymnastics in the UK?
It's small. It is very small. I think for me, it's not something like football where there's hundreds of thousands of people watching. It is a small and easier sport to get into potentially, because there's not as much competition, but you do need to be talented to do it, sort of thing, and you do need the work ethic and the drive like every other sport, but it is a lot smaller than things like football.
Yeah, I think it needs more breakout stars really to kind of push it onto that next level. You do start to see it, like the guy is Niall.
Yeah.
He does a lot of work like on social media and on television and things like that, and I think it does need just that exposure to kind of take it to the next level. But hopefully with you and the likes of Danny Crouch and Courtney and Jaden all going to schools on behalf of Sports for Champions, hopefully can push it on and inspire some young people to take it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think someone like Niall, who's made a following off YouTube, and people like Max Whitlock and people like that who are educating already in different clubs and on TV and on social medias, is definitely going to help the sport grow. It's just we need like more people, and it's a difficult sport. Not everyone can do it, and it's something that just needs to be found in someone, really.
Definitely. So that brings me on nicely to my sort of final question. If you were to give a piece of advice to somebody thinking about a career in gymnastics, what would it be?
To enjoy it. I think it comes with a lot of stresses and it comes with a lot of mental things, but enjoy it. It is the best sport in the world, in my opinion. You get to swing around a bar, you get to defy gravity, really. You get to like flip, twist, you can smile, you can enjoy things as much as any other sport, and as much as it's got a lot of like negative response gymnastics has, it's still the best sport in the world. And I think the positives always in my head outshined the problems and the things such as like mental blocks and injuries and things. So for me, someone getting into gymnastics, you've just got to enjoy it. Listen to your body, listen to your mind, but overall enjoy it.
I think that's a great note to end it on. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're more than welcome, and thank you to everyone joining from home. We'll see you next time. Cheers.